of a famous Moroccan rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yehudah Ben Attar. Zecher Tzadik Libracha. He was born in English year 1655 and he passed away on the 22nd of May, reported over, in the year 1733. He'd go on to become a head of Jewish court, a Dayan, I believe, in Fez and in Meknes in Morocco, and would take on various different rabbinic roles in the country itself. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, he was born, I believe, in the area of Fez. Fez is a place we've spoken about on various occasions before. Now, it's actually interesting. His family name is, as we say, Attar. What does the name Attar, what does it actually specifically mean in itself? It means the sky, let's just say, in Arabic. It's named, let's say, after the occupation of the family's ancestors. That's what is said over. So that's interesting enough. His father was Yaakov ben Abraham, and I think sadly, he passed away when he was at the age of 23 years old. So he would go up to work to earn a living and became an expert goldsmith, it's reported over. Now, throughout his life, even when he served, let's say, in the rabbinate, he earned his living by his own means. He wouldn't want to get a salary from, let's just say, these public activities he'd be doing within regards to the realm of the rabbinate itself, respectively. Now, he would study under great rabbis in his time, including especially Rabbi Vidal Hatzarfati Ashlishi. He's a rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before. He was a Moritz Tzedek, also in the city of Fez. He was a part of the Bet Din, the Jewish court there, and was a famous rabbi in the Tzarafti, let's just say, rabbinic dynasty. It was a great rabbinic family in Fez. Another one of the rabbis he would learn under was Rav Menachem Siriro, who was a great posek halacha, also a dayan and a rosh yeshiva, and one of the leading rabbis, let's just say, in Fez at his stage in time. So that's very, very interesting. Now, I believe it was around the year 1698, he would have been about 43 years of age. He'd be appointed to become a judge in Fez, along with, I think, the other great rabbis. And he was known as an expert and a genius, let's just say, within regards to all the realms of the Torah, respectively. And he was one of the great signatures, let's just say. He was one of the great rabbis of his generation, without a doubt. Remember, we mentioned him on various occasions before. He would sign, let's just say, regulations or prohibiting like various different things, takanot, which was instituted by the community. And he was very knowledgeable in all Torah aspects. Now, come with year 1701, I believe it was reported over that he would have to actually leave, I think, the city of Meknès at that stage in time. This would have been right at the start of the 18th century. He was forced to migrate, I believe, to the city of Meknès, along with many of the Jews of Fez over there. I believe there was persecution, unfortunately. And there was King Ismail at that point in time, or King Ismail, imposed large, heavy taxes on them. Now, he would go to Meknès and he would sit in the Dainut, in the realm, with other great rabbis and other great local sages. So he really would make his mark over there. Now, among the rabbis would be very, very prominent rabbis who we've spoken about before on various occasions, including the famous Rabbi Shmuel Hatzarfati, who was also a Rosh Yeshiva, Dayan, a Moritz Tzedek and the author of the Torah colossal book called the Divrei Shmuel. That was one of them. I think it would be a bet dinner with the head of Jewish court. This was in 1713. Now, after Rabbi Vidal and the passing of Rabbi Vidal and Rabbi Shmuel Hatzarfati, he'd be appointed to become one of the Dayanim, let's just say, as the main Dayan, I believe, in Meknès at that point in time. Now, I think come with the year Hitaf Samach Daled, that would have been around the very early 1700s, maybe 1703, 1704. Yeah, I think 1704. He would become the head of the Kihila. He would, first of all, return to Fez, and over there he'd become the head of the congregation over there, respectively. He'd put about different takanot at that point in time. And really, takanot was very needed, seemingly very needed for the Kihila in itself. It was seen as a very, very important role. He would amend various regulations for community regarding taxes, trade expenses, let's say for events, for loans from Gentiles, and so on and so forth. Now, come on, the year 1723, he would sit in the Bet Din, I believe, with other great rabbis, including, I believe, the famous Rabbi Yaakov ibn Sur, also known as Yavet, Rabbi we've spoken about on this series before. He was a posek halacha, a great Kabbalist, a darshan, let's say a poet, a Jewish songwriter, poet in his day. He would also, so they were like Talmidim that were very close to each other. And he would really take pain with the sensitivities of the suffering of the public, of the main kihila itself. He would work with regards to, from a welfare point of view, to help the Jews in the city, especially the needy ones. And he was very open, his house was, to help people come in, embrace him in, and any questions he'd be able to, he was confident that he'd have the ability to answer. They passed away, he was about 77 years of age, I think it was the 19th of Sivan. This happened to be the great rabbi, left the world. And he was, I think after he passed away, he was replaced as a head of Jewish court by his fellow rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov ibn Sur, who was known, obviously, as we said before, as a Yavet in his time. Now, he'd have 3 sons, including Rabbi Chaim, Rabbi Moshe, and Rabbi Oved. And his grandson happened to be Rabbi Yehudah Ben Attar, or you could say the Hasheni, the second. Over here, he's actually a rabbi, I believe we actually spoke about in a separate video at one stage in time, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd recommend everyone to learn about that. He was a chronicler, he was a halakhic arbitrator, he was head of Jewish court, and had various different roles he did, respectively. So that I would recommend everyone to look at. I believe we did a video on that. Now, among his Talmidim included Rabbi Eliyahu Sarfati, another rabbi we mentioned about before, very great rabbi. And I'd recommend everyone to look in regards to that. So he would have various different great Talmidim among them. So there was him. There was also Rabbi Shem Tov Ben Amozag and Rabbi Yaakov ben Sur, who we mentioned about before. Now, it's interesting. He had a very grandiose reputation among Moroccan Jewry. Especially, I think miraculous stories were attributed to him that Jews and Gentiles liked. They would call him Rabbi al-Khabir. Why was this? He was a great rabbi in Arabic. He was reported over once thrown into prison by the order of the governor of the state. Anti-Semitism in those days was very large, unfortunately. And when the Jewish community did not have the money required to ransom him, the governor threw him into a den of lions, and he remained there for a day without harm. That was a miracle that actually happened because he was so great, such a great stature of a rabbi. People would swear by his name, for example, and some people would, I believe, call him even Elijah, the great rabbi. Many people come to his house on the Chagim, of the various different Chagim, all throughout the yearly encompassment, and come for brachot, respectively. And he was very, as we stated on the onset, he was very makpid about what money he would receive. He looked at public activity as something very important and something very noble, which it very much has to be. So we have to say about that. Now, I believe he was initially buried in the Jewish cemetery in Melach, I believe. This was in the city of Fez, Melach, you could say, in the city of Fez. But when the Jews left the place and moved to Kasbah of Zirara, let's just say, I think this was shortly afterwards, they would take his bones with them and buried him in El Gisa. And when the Jewish people returned to Melach in Fez, they returned his bones in the year 1792. Now, come on, I believe maybe it was around the time 1818. There was a king of Morocco take over the cemetery allocated over there near this place, and he granted the Jewish community a new area for burial, and they again moved his bones to the current burial place in the Jewish cemetery in Fez, respectively. Other great rabbis were buried next to him, or he was actually put, I think, next to other great rabbis. Let's explore, I think, right next to, if I'm not mistaken, I'll just get the article over here, because I'm just transferring. Okay, so I think Rabbi Abner Sarfati, who was a great Dayan, a Kabbalist, a chronicler, one of the great rabbis of Fez, respectively, he was one of the rabbis we are talking about. Rabbi Dal Sarfati and the Yavuz, and the great Rabbi Yaakov ibn Abra Reuben ibn Sur, was also a Kabbalist, a preacher, a poet, head of Jewish court, Merad Atra in the Judaism of Fez, and one of the greatest Moroccan sages for that date during the 18th century. So I'd recommend everyone to go back to that specific video. And these kevarim, or where these great rabbis are, let's say, buried, is a pilgrimage place where people come and pray for salvation or pray various different tefillot when they're visiting there. Now, he would leave Torah colossal works, including Minchat Yehuda. What was that? There were sermons on the Torah. I believe it was originally printed in the year 1684. But when he saw the students did not know the art of preaching despite their Torah greatness, and began to teach them the teachings of speech and sermon. When they gathered every Shabbat for the Mincha, he would give over a weekly Torah portion, let's just say, and various other books. I think Rabbi Raphael Baruch Toledano would actually copy some of these books, if I'm not mistaken. And he would quote extensively from the words of Rav Kutzi, who may have been, I think, Rabbi Moshe of Kutzi, respectively. And he would write a poem with regards to Shechita, for example, and Shrefot. And there was a book, I believe, on laws with regards to divorce and Chalitza. There was a commentary on the Medrash Rebbe, which was, I believe, that was a question and answer, She'elot Shuvot, in the responsorial psalm, let's just say. It was published, I think, in the year 1733, and later on by Rav Moshe Amar in the year 1991. Now, I believe some of the books would actually stay in manuscript, and responsories from him are scattered in the books of Moroccan rabbis of those days. And very, very interesting enough. He was a great rabbi. I recommend everyone to learn more within regards to him and his family tree. Once again, Rabbi Yehudah Ben Attar. He was about 77, 78 years of age at the time the great rabbi passed away. Now, friends, we're a community here. We are learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear. Now, if you descend from any of the great rabbis we're speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to know more information. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please subscribe now. We're nearing 7,000 subscribers, and if you feel anyone's interested in watching any of these videos, please share these videos to the other people also. So wishing you blessings from Israel. Take care and a great night.